Hi there, Deidre Kennedy here from the Pacifica Historical Society and host of the show Footprints of Pacifica. We get together every week to discover and explore the lure and the lore of Pacifica, its character and its characters. The focus of today's show is a medieval fair held long ago in Pacifica and spearheaded by Tom Jackson.
Sir Thomas of Chicken.
Sir Thomas of Chicken.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. We're honored to have Tom Jackson and his wife, Jackie DiCello, here in our studio. Tom is well known in town as an artist and a sculptor, and Jackie is also known here as an artist and an art teacher, as well as a founder of the Art Guild of Pacifica.
I'm also well known as a troublemaker, too.
Troublemaker's good.
Yeah.
Keeps things lively.
I'm a born-again curmudgeon.
All right. Curmudgeon. Oh, Jackie, that must keep your days very busy.
No,
got that right.
No, I get out of hand, she jumps in the chair and hits me in the kneecap.
Oh, my. Well, none of that here on the show.
Sore knees.
We'll start at the beginning. Where were you born, and what was your early schooling?
I was born in San Francisco, third generation, and I went to Mission High School. And it was a pretty good school, but it was still a good school. And I got out in 49. And my favorite team is the 49ers. And 49 is miles, it's the 49-mile scenic drive throughout San Francisco. 49 sticks with that town.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Jackie, where were you born?
San Francisco.
Me too.
Other
Great
side.
Good people.
Yes. And where did you go to school?
I went to Polytechnic
Polytechnic.
with the football team.
Yes.
Yes,
Better class of kids, too.
absolutely.
How did you come by your artistic gifts, Tom?
I fell into it. I was spared the agonies of a formal art training, and I just looked around, observed. One day I picked up a pen. Actually, I was in a hospital when I was a child, and appendicitis, and collapsed something or other, and the doctor decided I was going to be there for 9 weeks.
My.
And this was at SF General. So the doctor decided I looked lonely, so he brought me some paper and pencil, and I drew, and I drew, and I drew.
Oh.
So I was about 6. Never stopped drawing. I drew some outlandish boats, though, but but he come in and say, "That's nice, Tom. That's nice, Tom." Then he injects me.
Right. Jackie, how did your artistic training start?
It started just about the same way. Once I found a pencil and some charcoal and paper, that was it. Drew everything I could find.
I've seen your work. It's extraordinary. And now you've gone to pastels, and it's just as colorful and delightful as can be.
Yeah, enjoy it very much.
We call them pastels, not crayons or chalk.
No,
She
no.
knows better.
Not
Pastels.
chalk. Not chalk. Yeah.
How many years have you been working in pen, clay, ink, pastels, and imagination?
My imagination has always been with me. And clay, actually, Sandor Puski started me on that, because I was doing many drawings. And he handed me a chunk of clay, and he says, "Tom, would you like to try sculpting something?" No, I've never done it. So I did this piece, and it dried, and he fired it, and I got the feeling for it then. I hear something that's hard, and I created it.
Yeah.
So I started doing more and more. And then pretty soon I was selling them everywhere.
That's wonderful. We're going to feature those in another program.
Oh, yeah.
They deserve a whole program of their own. Who are some of the artists that have inspired you?
You really want to know? I always admired some counterfeiters out in San Quentin. I thought
Yes.
they were really artistic.
Yes, in calligraphy,
But,
we call that the dark underbelly of calligraphy, yes.
I know. Then I saw some on the inside of boxcars I thought were pretty good. And so I sketched those too, and then I started creating my own. I worked at the American Can Company, and after high school, and I started drawing cartoons for the company and all of that. And picnics and whatnot. And then, of course, some of my foremen I didn't like, they hung their picture up too.
Oh, yes.
That's where I got in
Portraits?
trouble.
Your first portraits?
Yeah, God, yeah, my portraits.
All of us talk about creativity leads us to a wonderful event here in Pacifica that you spearheaded, Tom. When did you first visit scenic Pacifica, and what lured you here?
I came here we figured it out the other day, 46, 47 years ago, and I still consider myself a newcomer because the school system in San Francisco started falling apart. I wasn't going to ship my kids clear across town and neighborhoods they were unfamiliar with. 2 hours there, 2 hours back, then missing all that school time. Well, I moved here, and after I did, they stopped that system. Not because I moved here, but they all realized, hey, it was a pretty stupid system, So that's why I moved here. And then once I was here, I found I loved it here. It's much like the city. Fog, oh yeah, God, I love the fog. Yeah. And people ask me, is it foggy down there? I say, oh God, yeah, it's foggy down there, man. You don't want to come live in the Pacifica.
Right.
No, it's terrible.
It's been our defense for years.
It's my defense, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many years have you lived here now?
Oh, I think 46, 47 years.
And you, Jackie?
She's been here longer.
I've been here since 1957.
Right.
They built a town around her.
I didn't
Yes.
want to come. I didn't want to sit around artichoke patches all the time. But I wouldn't leave for anything. So
Yes. Well, on to the idea for the Medieval Faire. Wherever did it come from?
Well, I belong to the SCA, which is the Society for the Creative Anachronism, and I joined them 40 years ago or better, and I liked them, and I joined a clan, Cullen, Ian Mackenzie, and they asked me, they said, what do you want to be? I said, what do you got? And they said, well, we got warriors, and we have art groups that display their artwork, and I said, okay, I think I'll be a warrior because I just got out of the hod carrying field and I was pretty buff.
Yes.
And he's out there right now, you go see some of the warriors. I went out there and these guys, I got out in the field, here goes this helmet rolling right by me, it had a little bit of blood on it. And I said, what, he said, he just lost his helmet. I said, I don't want to deal with this. So I said, what else have you got? The art, that's for me. And what's your name gonna be? Because we all have picked names.
Yes.
I said, Sir Thomas of Chicken. And so I cut out this big leather chicken on my white tunic, and man, I was Sir Thomas of Chicken. Yeah, they remembered me.
Yes. The Medieval Faire was held in the early part of May 10th and 11th, 1980. And it was a Pacifica event that has had no equal since. It was a happening in the very best sense of the word. And as you well know, those events did not just happen. There were many months of planning and many phone calls and many different kinds of communication.
7 months. 7 months of planning. I was living over the hill and driving van for this guy part-time, and I come home at night. I was also watchman at the same time, so he gave me a place to live. And I come up with this idea of the Medieval Faire. I called Bruce Fancier, a potter, friend of mine. Let's do it. Oh, yeah, let's have one, man. It'd be fun. Yeah, and art, okay. So he was the manager. I mean, he took it over, the boss end of it. My job was to go get the artists, bring them in, and keep them apprised every night on the phone as to how things are going. Bruce, he took the monies in, and we only charged $10 a space. We had 150 spaces, 10 by 10s. We only took $10 from them, and each individual, and they were allowed to keep every penny they made. And he also got one big grand scale sale permit for everybody, so there'd be no trouble, and insurance on the whole show. And he dealt with the school district to rent the school grounds.
Which school did you use, Tom?
What was it?
Sharp
Park School.
Right.
Yeah, where the Ingram B. Lacey is now.
Yes.
Yeah, it was that one, but it was a little bigger than that because they didn't have the houses up there, well, the storages.
Right.
It was massive at that time.
Right.
Oh yeah, it was the ideal spot, just ideal. And so I asked the SCA if they wanted to get involved. They go, oh yeah, we'll come too. So, just one thing led to another.
Yes, let's talk a moment about the SCA. It's the Society for Creative Anachronism. And who belongs to this, and is it open to anyone?
Yes, it's open to anybody. And what you do is you're learning the medieval ways. That's all. And there's women in it, and they have their children are in it. Mm-hmm. And some of them, they learn the crafts, the games the kids are playing. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have our warriors there's different realms. And these warriors that do battle with each other and try and take away the dignity of the other one. They hit pretty hard. Mm. They're rattan swords, but they're like steel. Mm. And everybody has their own helmet, and they make them out of football helmets, but they add visors. This one here, that picture of me there, that helmet, that belonged to one of the guys on the field who made them. So I put that on for a photo shoot, and I look real bad, but I was an artist. Yeah.
Here's a picture of here's a photo of them in combat.
That was a photo shoot too. That's him and me, and he made all this stuff, and he'd sell out. That guy sold out. In fact, the other shows, we met him years back in other shows, Stonestown. Mm-hmm. He'd laid out a big blanket, put his weapons there, and he sold out just like that.
Did they have armor for the horses as well?
No, we didn't have one. The only horse we had, the only horse we had was Ian Mackenzie's horse. Right. It was a great white steed, and it belonged to the chief, so we didn't deal with that. Right. And it was nice to see him, strutting his stuff. Ian Mackenzie.
We have some stories about Ian Mackenzie, I think.
I don't know.
I know there was one of the bagpipers.
Oh, well, that was, the bagpipers was Jack Cunningham.
That's right.
Jack Cunningham, a friend of mine. He was the piper at the Edinburgh Castle on Geary Street. Right. For years. And that's where but he was also a male nurse. Mm-hmm. This nighttime job of his and weekend was the Edinburgh Castle. And so anyway, and there's a funny story about that too, because he didn't have a car. Right. And Jasbo Collins called me up, and you got a photo of him. Yeah, Jasbo Collins called me up, and he says, "Hey Tom," he says, "I want you to bring up a contingency of what this Medieval Faire is all about." Now, when we got there, this was the best, the biggest promotion we ever had, because it's right on top of the mountain, and it's a TV. And it was 3 hours long.
A 3-hour television program?
Yeah, 3 hours. And the only problem was we had to get there at, it started at 6. So I had to start rounding people up at 4:30 in the dark. And I had a van from the work, and I was rounding up Jackie, Pusky, and other people, and they carried their artwork with them, and I brought them up to the hill. Mm-hmm. Where's Jack? Well, he's home. He's home. He's at the... lived at 25th and Valencia by St. Luke's, and so he said, "I didn't have a car, you got to pick me up." So okay, he gave me his address, and it was the wrong address, and I didn't know that until after I rang the bell. And this guy comes to the door, and half his face is shaved, half is lathered, and he's holding a straight razor. And I said, "Is Jack here?" And I was dressed like Sir Thomas the Chicken. The guy looked at me real strange, and he says, "There's no Jack here." And I said, oh. And then he hollered some obscenities about my family. I know my grandmother didn't write in the family Bible, so. But anyway, he slammed the door, and I look up over here, and here's Jack up the window. He said, "Hey, Tom, I'll be right down." I had the wrong house. So we hightailed it from there out to the studio, and we made it just in time.
Great. There were some other folks that joined you at that studio shoot.
Yeah, Sarah Lomax. She was a sweetheart. She was a music teacher, And she called me earlier during the year, and she says, Tom, we have a school project, and if you care, we can use the fair as a project. I said, hey, fine. And she says, what do we do? I said, just play. And she says, well, what do we wear? I said, tunics. And so their mothers, the students' mothers, all made these tunics, and they had the big red P for Pacifica, but it was an Old English P, very decorative, and it looked almost like a cross, but it was beautiful. And then while we were there, it was foggy in the morning, and that's when Al Collins says, that was taken by a guy named Savage years apart, but that is the forest up there. And so anyway, Al says, what else you got, Tom? Well, first of all, we went in there and Jack played bagpipe for a while, and then Jackie demonstrated pastels, and Ann Puskey demonstrated how she made weaving.
Yeah.
And and then a few singers and that kind of thing. He said, what else have you got? And I said, well, we got a band coming up the hill, and we got some SCA members who want to demonstrate. And he said, well, are they outside? Yeah. So he said, move the cameras outside. So they moved the cameras outside and went right down the hill, about 500 yards down there, and there was a bus. And Sarah was just getting off the bus with these kids.
Oh.
And they looked great. And they started playing right away, and they started marching right toward the camera. And it was just kids, early in the morning like that, foggy, cold, and they were very brave kids. And they came up to the camera, played a piece, turned around, and marched back down, got back on a bus, and went to school.
Medieval flutes and recorders.
Oh, it was great.
Evocative.
It was great.
Yeah.
And Al says, well, for that I'm coming to the fair. But then he says, who are these guys? The SCA, they're all standing there chomping at the bit to show what they do. And there was about 15 of them. And I said, oh, they're the SCA, they're the warriors and the knights. And what do they do? I said, guys, you're going to be on TV, and you got the whole Bay Area is going to look at you. Show them what you do. God, I thought they'd kill each other. I mean, they really hit. Even the cameramen were going, wow, ooh, wow, ooh, ee. And then Al says, well, for that I'm coming definitely to see this.
Yes.
And so that was really the highlight of the advertising, because it saw the whole Bay Area. But we did have the San Mateo Times doing write-ups on us.
Yes, I have a few samples here.
Yeah, this was everywhere. And Pacifica Tribune, of course, some people from there, and South San Francisco News, South San Francisco Paper,
Right.
the Chronicle, and they gave us some play. And then what's his name, Bob Wilkinson, he had a Channel 20. He had this horror film, Creature Features.
Yeah, I
on
remember
Channel
Creature
20.
Features. Yeah.
He took a liking to us, and so he started advertising it too.
It was well publicized.
Oh yeah.
What do you think the attendance finally ended up to be?
We had 2 counters, and between the 2 of them, one was Shirley Bybee, and I forget the other one was from the Tribune. And they counted
pictures of the early committee.
Yeah, they
Right.
counted between 6,000 and 7,000.
Oh,
but
wonderful
but it was from everywhere too. I mean, I tried to keep everybody, all the artists, as Pacificans, what they were. They were about in Pacifica and just over the hill. So we had, out of that 100 and some odd artists, they were basically Pacificans, and that was good.
yes.
It introduced Pacifica, and it showed we did have some artists.
Oh, indeed.
And yeah. So
Here's some more of the artists. Here's
Yeah.
a calligrapher that was a local teacher, Stephen
Yes.
Johnson.
Yeah.
He taught at Cabrillo.
Yeah, and it was what's his name? Bob Meyerhoff. Bob Meyerhoff? The Tire King. The Tire King. The
Yes.
other he built a costume. He made a costume out of tire tubes and things like that, and he looked great. He looked great. Chuck Gus came, and he had close to 300 turkey legs. His committee was the old what was it? Committee.
Yeah, Frontier.
Frontier Committee.
Right.
Yeah.
They volunteered to come up there, and they dressed up, and they brought the 600
Right.
Turkey Leg, and they sold out real quick.
This
Here's
of
one
the-
fellow
Yeah.
eating one of the turkey legs.
that's
Right
Yeah, that's
here.
one of the turkey legs, and that's Carlson over there. He was
He was the head of the art
head
department.
of the art
at-
department when we first got here.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
There was also music. In
Oh,
addition
yeah.
to the band, I see a
Well, that's the
fair consort.
Fair and Fine Consort. Yeah, that was a group that decided, well, we're going to get a. People came from all over once they started seeing this. Women came. They made their costumes. They loved the idea of dressing up, and Queen for a Day type thing, and
Here's some of the costumes here.
Yeah, this is Del Sari up here at the top, and that's the Fair and Fine Consort alongside of it. This is Pee-Pee's Pizza up in
by the
Sharp Park,
Tribune. Yeah.
and right up next to the Tribune. And she was a sweetheart, but she really got into it too. And she says, okay, so she had a booth, and she brought her girls down there, and she had two booths with Soak the Bloke and Drench the Wench.
Right.
Right.
And wet sponges, and it gave them all a chance to get in with their spouses or boyfriends,
Yes.
And they loved it. They
It's-
just loved it.
There were dozens. I was reading that list of participants. There were dozens of local merchants, and they had awards, and they had treats and surprises and raffles.
Oh yeah. Well, see,
Amazing
but the best part about that is that a lot of people didn't know of them, and so this thing just spread out. The people who came here, even from out of town, they learned about these people that there are merchants there. Yeah, and so it was a good spread. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It's.
So we also had a melee at the.
We had a melee, yeah, and a melee is it's anybody gets it, It's one of them hollers melee, and these warriors, these knights, they go out and they beat each other. I mean, they beat each other. They go for blood.
Were there awards given?
No, Band-Aids.
Band-Aids were given. Yes.
Yeah, Band-Aids.
You can't reward that.
Can't reward it. No Band-Aids and that kind of thing.
That was near Mother's Day, wasn't it?
It was.
was on Mother's Day.
It was on Mother's Day. In fact, that night, the Friday night, it rained.
Tell us.
It was a torrential rain, and I'm standing in a window there at where I was billeted, and I'm watching the rain come down. This is South City, and I'm watching it hit the ground and going down the gutter, just taking everything but Volkswagens down with it. I mean, it was really bad, and it went on and on and on. So I did the best thing I could. I took a shot of vodka, and then maybe two more,
Right.
and then washed it and went to sleep. And I woke up about 5:30. And I said, oh my God. So anyway, I got up, put my Sir Thomas the chicken outfit on, and drove over the hill. And I got up here to the school, and there was Mackenzie. I mean, and the sun came out. For 2 days, the sun came out. It stopped raining that morning. And there's Ian. He was riding his white horse, and he had pipers around him and the whole group, and they're parading around. And in the background, the women were cooking
Right.
for their children, and the children were playing medieval games. So they were really into it. And all during the day, people who were curious about what they were doing go over and talk to them, and they'd let them know. Quite
There
a
were
few
other
people signed up too.
Right. There were other crafts as well. I've noticed that there were a wonderful array of jewelry making,
Oh yeah.
and the scribes had scrolls.
Yes.
Some illumined with gold.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just beautiful
Floyd's
scrolls.
bookstore was there, and it was her son, the older guy.
John.
Aaron is the boy, her grandson, that runs it now. But this was John, and he was shared a big table with Brad, Amick. And,
Charlene Amick's.
Yeah, yeah,
Family,
and
yes.
Amick, the boy, and he was into Dungeons and Dragons. And he
Yes.
had all of that out there, and they're all playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
So it was really nice, And I mean, it was. Harry was a restaurant that opened up at the other end of town, Chinese restaurant, and he took a chance on it. He said, "Okay, I'll take a chance on coming." So he bought a booth, and he sold out in about 20 minutes. And he jumped back in his little car, and he went back up. He came back and forth. He must have
many
been 30
times.
times, And the next day he brought help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how you learn.
Well,
You just-
people ate. You know,
Yes.
they ate.
all that fresh air and all that meleeing.
Oh, yeah, the melee,
gives you an
yeah.
appetite.
Not everybody wanted to get into that, but they appreciated it. You
Yes.
know, yeah, it wasn't their blood.
Right, right. There was also other, besides cooking over fires, open fires, they had, examples of the games that children played in those days.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I don't remember the games they played,
Right.
but they weren't as rough as the melee.
Right,
Maybe their ball was a rag, you know, and sticks.
sure.
But that's what they did in the medieval days, and they tried to speak the old language. You go to talk to one of them, not the old language, but it was
Right.
kind of makeshift.
Sure.
Thee, thy, thou, you know,
Right,
that kind
right.
of thing. So, and I got into it for a while. Then it sounded like I was spitting all over myself, so I decided not to try that again.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a website we can look at if you're interested in the Society for Creative Anachronism. And they have, to this day, they have groups in down the peninsula and in San Francisco and up Marin Way and
Yeah.
Northern California has kingdoms.
Yes,
And they have meetings,
and as do
regular meetings.
as do the Renaissance too. Yeah, yeah, they both do. Yeah, and it's still growing.
Yes.
It's still growing.
It's international, as a matter of fact.
Yes, it is.
I noticed that, and they
Right,
also
yeah.
incorporate English and German medieval times, as well as the
Yeah.
medieval times of Japan
Yeah,
and the Middle East.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's truly an
amazing.
international experience from the 600s to the 1600s.
Right, it
roughly.
was quite a span.
Right.
So no matter what uniform you wore or costume, you fit in.
Right.
We had some samurai there too, and they were really sharp. I mean, you know, and some of the guys with the English swords. I mean, big, heavy English swords.
Yes.
They didn't even want to take on these samurai. They pretty wicked guys. You know?
Yes, the samurai are
Fast.
fearsome warriors.
Fast.
Yes. And it also taught as well as had fun. You were also learning.
It was
about
it was historical.
Yes, and for all
Yeah.
ages.
That's
And
right.
to have an event like that is just extraordinary. And
Yeah.
thank you, Tom, for doing that so many years ago.
It was fun. You know, a lot of work.
Yes.
But
Oh,
it was-
indeed.
But when it was over, I didn't. I like I say, I went up north and restored an 1885 Victorian. Took me 2 years.
What was the outcome of the Medieval Fair? Was it a financial success?
I think we wound up with $10, and Bruce and I went over to the pizza place and we had a pizza and a beer. And that was it.
Oh.
By the time you paid for the
For the love of
debris-
it.
Oh yeah, the debris boxes in the school, and
Yeah.
cleaning up. He and
Yeah.
I cleaned that thing up too.
Well, that's about all the time we have today. We want to thank Tom Jackson and Jackie DiCello for joining us. And if you'd like to get involved with the historical department, the Historical Society, please check our website, www.pacificahistory.org, to check our many projects and join us. Our address is Box 752, Pacifica 94044, or give us a call, 650-359-5462. Thank you for watching our show.
Thank you.